Beth from Trees for Tomorrow. When we decided we wanted to do video content this summer to stay in touch with you guys, I knew right away that I wanted to do a video about birding and birds because I love both of them. Unfortunately, I can't bird. I know very little. So instead, I decided to bring you two experts, and they're gonna show us the ropes.
Hi, this is Cheryl from Trees for Tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us today on our adventure with birds. I have been birding for about 20 years, and birds have been a way that I love to connect with nature, whether that's looking at birds at my feeder or out on the trail. I particularly like to listen to birds, but I think birds are interesting because once you really start paying attention, you realize how different their behaviors are, how different their flight patterns are, how different their markings are from each other. So there's just so many things to watch for and listen to, especially once you start observing. I especially like being out birding when I am out with my friend Troy.
Hi, my name is Troy. I currently work as the Outreach and Monitoring Coordinator at the Northwoods Land Trust. I actually worked at Trees for Tomorrow for a number of years, but I really got my start in birding when I was in 7th grade. A teacher took us bird watching, which one of the more memorable things I've ever done in grade school, and that really got me going into birds. He was actually colorblind, so to watch him identify birds was pretty fascinating. Then fast forward to when I worked at Trees for Tomorrow, and birding became essential for my job, leading Road Scholar programs, so I managed to learn quite a few birds very quickly by sheer determination, listening to a lot of tapes, CDs, and going to the same places over and over again. It's one of the best tips that I would have for learning a lot of birds.
So since today we're going to talk about birds in our backyard, before we do that, it is important to start thinking about some of the characteristics that we want to look at to help us figure out what might be in our backyard. So for example, we might want to look at size and shape of birds. So if we think about size and shape of a woodpecker versus a crow, that's an example of they have different sizes and different shapes. So again, just thinking about that as we look at our birds, sometimes that's the first thing we want to look at is, okay, is it a really small bird? Is it a really big bird? Is it a chunky bird? Is it a thin bird? So again, size and shape. We also want to look at beak characteristics. So we have common bird at our feeder is black-capped chickadees. We might see a loon out on the lake, or we might see a bald eagle. All have very different beak sizes, beak shapes. Again, something else to look at. Next, legs and feet. So body, the rest of the body of the animal, of the bird. So we think about sandhill cranes, which we oftentimes find in fields. They've got skinny legs, they're tall, and then you compare that to maybe a little mallard that's out on the lake or by the water. Again, different shape of their bodies as well as their legs, feet, their neck. Also looking at tails. So as an example, we can have wrens in our yard and around the Northwoods, and they're really small birds. A lot of times have their tail kind of flicked up. Ravens and crows have different shaped tails. And then even flycatchers, a lot of birds that are collecting bugs. Phoebes, I associate with phoebes because we have them nesting at Trees for Tomorrow's campus. And I see them in my own backyard too. And they have a behavior where they actually like flap their tail. And that's kind of just a unique behavior for them. And also birds have different kinds of wings. So their shapes of their wings, the patterns on their wings. So falcons have a specific shape to their wings to help them to fly faster. Red-winged blackbirds have, guess what? Red wings. And goldfinches, we see them at our feeders all the time, and they have a lot of black and white on their wings. So again, just examples of things that we want to look for. There's so many more things to look at, whether we talk about eye stripes, eye rings. Again, we can go through every body part of a bird. So whether they, again, have a stripe through their eye or close to their eye or a ring around their eye. Robins, our state bird, have a white ring around their eye, something that's very distinct, and some other birds have specific markings. We could go on and on about different parts of a bird, but as long as we start watching for birds and looking at them to help us figure out one bird from the next, it's good to start paying attention. What do we see on their head, also called their cap? What again do we see around their eyes? Is there stripes? What do we see on their chest or their back? Which is oftentimes their lower back is their rump. And so there's a bird I love to see and hear out in the North Woods. It's called the yellow-rumped warbler. And that one some people call butterbutt because it's got a yellow rump, or we can call it a yellow butt. So again, just examples of things that we want to start looking at to help us figure out what kind of bird we're looking at. And many times the bird name helps us to figure out what it might look like. So a red-winged blackbird is a blackbird that has red wings.
All right, one of the things that is really important to be able to view birds is to have some sort of optics that you can use. Spotting scopes and binoculars are kind of the two things that birders generally have. Binoculars is the most widely used of the two optics. There's a few things to recognize about binoculars. Number one is there are different kinds of binoculars. Some are straight through binoculars and some are angled a little bit. Doesn't really matter which ones you get. I got good advice from a friend of mine that said if you can't afford to replace the binoculars, they're too expensive. So buy ones you're not afraid to take with you wherever you go. There are numbers that say like 8 by 42. Mine say 6 by 32. The first number is magnification. So between 6 and 8 is generally a good amount of magnification. Higher than that, any shaking in your hands will cause the image to shake. The second number, the 42 or 32 in my binoculars, is the size of the end piece here. Okay, the other things are, so how do you actually use them? It seems kind of simple actually, but there are some good tips. Number one is, how do you hold binoculars? Rest on your thumbs, fingers, and then relax. You don't need to like have a death grip on them. Secondly, the eye cups, you can turn them out. If you are not wearing glasses, if you are, you want them all the way in. That adjusts the distance from your eye to the lens, and that'll make sure you get a full image. The other thing is the distance between the two, you can adjust by just moving the binoculars up and down. Once again, it seems kind of silly, but if you don't do it properly, you need it to form a complete circle, otherwise the image isn't going to be very crisp. So make sure that you're adjusting the interpupillary distance. The last thing is your eyes are not equal in how they see. So there's another thing that you can actually adjust called the diopter measurement. You can just turn it plus or minus. So the way you adjust your binoculars, this is actually pretty important, is you find something off in the distance to focus on, see which one has the diopter adjustment. There's a tree over there I'm looking at. So adjust it. There's a ring here that you're trying to get the object in focus with. Make sure it's in focus. You should cover the one that has the ring that you can turn. Then, not adjusting the focus, cover the other one, and turning that diopter ring until it's actually clear. And then remembering what that is, so that in the future you can make sure if it ever gets turned, it's in the right spot. Scopes. I'm not going to go into too much detail because not a lot of people really have scopes. If you're looking at shorebirds or obviously things really far away, they're hugely beneficial. It still has, these are the eye cups that you could turn. This one also has a zoom magnification. So you can turn it from 20x all the way to 60. Start at 20 when you're trying to find the bird, otherwise you'll have a lot more distance that you're going to be able to see. You'll see a much wider field of view if you have it on the lowest magnification and then zoom in. I have a straight lens. That's easier to find birds. Some people actually have an angled eyepiece, which can be really helpful if you're looking at something really high in the tree. The angled eyepiece will help if you have taller and shorter people within the same group. All right, field guides are a great tool to have. A lot of people use phones and apps, and that is great as well. But I will say I do believe that the books actually, you can see them in any amount of bright light. Sometimes when you're using your phone, it's hard to see them if it's really bright out. There's many things to look for field guide. Basically, whatever field guide you buy, just get used to using it, and it's probably going to work just fine. But some features of field guides are things that I really think are important. In this particular case, it gives you the name, gives you the size, it gives you general identification characteristics, which reference the arrows called field marks on the other page. This one actually tells you male and female. It gives sometimes similar species, it gives what their voice sounds like, where they're located, and what their call might sound like. The range maps on the side are very helpful. They reference pages in the back that has a larger map that gives more detail. So this is just an example of what one field guide might look like. Once again, there are many different types of field guides. As far as apps on your phone, there are quite a few. I was looking at some of them. Merlin app from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology is actually very, very good. You can take a photo of a bird and it'll actually help you identify it. One important thing I think that Merlin uses is it uses general observations from eBird, which is another app you can use to track how many birds you see or which birds you see and where you go. And then anybody else actually knows the birds in the area through eBird. But Merlin uses eBird to help formulate what bird species you might have. The other thing that you would use for Merlin is you can use, there's like 2 or 3 different features you have to plug in, and it'll spit out a few possibilities that the bird could be. I also got a different bird app, which is really nice. I had to pay for it. Some apps you don't have to. I guess start with one you don't have to pay for and try it and see how it works and see if it's something that's helpful for you.
Wow, I sure learned a lot. So I guess let's go look for some birds.
Wait, Beth. Let's just wait, just a couple more things. Before we go outside and look at birds in our backyard or out on the trail, just want to remind ourselves of a few things. So we want to keep quiet when we think we're close to birds or really any animal. We want to walk slow. We don't want to disturb them. We have a better chance of seeing them. We want to make sure we have our tools, our binoculars ready if we want to get a good look at them. We have our field guide if we want to carry that with us. If we do want to use our bird app and listen to bird songs, it is good to listen to them really quietly or step away from that bird sound. And we don't want to disturb birds and have them think there's another bird of the same kind that's in their area. Oftentimes birds are singing to protect a territory and we don't want to disturb them. So again, just good practice when we are trying to play a bird song, to not play it real loud. I play my bird songs real close to my head if I do want to listen to them outside. So Troy talked about how to use binoculars, or just another kind of trick when you are looking at a bird. So let's say I see a bird up there, and what's nice is if I already have my binoculars around my neck, I don't even look down. As Troy said, my binoculars should be all ready and set for my view so that they're focused for me. And then I just pull them up and don't look away. And there we go. I've got my black-capped chickadee up there. And I can see it. I could find it because I never looked down away from where the chickadee was. In addition, we want to try to look at the bird and observe it as quick as you can and get as much information as you can. So if you're with somebody else, what's great is you can say, hey Troy, I see a yellow bird that has black and white on its wings and a little black spot on its head. And as I start explaining that, then Troy can maybe look at the book or start thinking about the birds that he's familiar with.
Time of day for various birds actually can be different. For instance, if you want to see a woodcock, you'll want to go during low light times. If you want to see an owl, you'll need to go, generally speaking, at night. Most birds, however, like right around dawn and slightly after dawn, especially at this time of year, end of May. You'll get a much better chance to see the birds moving around, probably starting at around 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
Now we can go and look at birds. Hi, I'm Cheryl and I'm back here at Trees for Tomorrow's campus in Eagle River. I hope you enjoyed today's program. Trees for Tomorrow is a nonprofit natural resources education specialty school. We were founded in 1944 as a reforestation effort by the pulp and paper industry. Today our focus is on educating the next generation about sustainability and our role as stewards of our natural resources. Funding for Trees for Tomorrow comes from a combination of program fees, corporate sponsorships, grants, and donations from individuals like you. If you found value in today's program, please consider making a donation to Trees for Tomorrow by going to our website and clicking on the Donate Now button in the top right corner. We also encourage you to follow us on social media and share your experiences exploring the outdoors. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on our next episode.